Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to be doing a comprehensive chapter-by-chapter analysis of Morgan Housel's absolutely fascinating book, The Psychology of Money. Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to effortlessly build wealth, while others, even really brilliant people, are constantly struggling? Well, this analysis is probably going to change how you look at your finances forever. Housel makes this super compelling argument. Doing well with money honestly has very little to do with how smart you are, and literally everything to do with how you behave. We're exploring those timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness, and really digging into how the gears in our minds turn when cash is on the table. To show you just how crucial behavior is, let's look at two totally contrasting stories right from the start of the source material. First up, we've got a wildly successful tech executive. This guy was a certified genius. He actually patented a key Wi-Fi component in his 20s, but his relationship with money was totally toxic. He'd literally walk around carrying thick stacks of $100 bills just to show off to people. There's this one crazy story where he accidentally shattered a $500 lamp at a hotel, and he just arrogantly threw $5,000 in cash at the manager and told him to get out of his face. I mean, no surprise here, this genius eventually went entirely broke. Now, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, there's a man named Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant. He literally had to hitchhike to campus just to be the first person in his family to graduate high school. And yet, when Reed passed away, he absolutely shocked everyone. He left behind a massive multi-million-dollar fortune that he had secretly built up over a lifetime. So this brings us to a massive paradox, right? How on earth can a brilliant tech executive go completely bankrupt while a janitor with zero formal financial education amasses millions? Housel actually sums it up perfectly. He says, financial success is not a hard science, it's a soft skill. And that hit the nail on the head. A genius who loses control of their emotions, that is a guaranteed financial disaster waiting to happen. But an ordinary person with no financial background at all can build incredible wealth as long as they simply master a few key behavioral skills. So to truly understand the psychology, we're going to follow a clear roadmap today and break this down into 5 core chapters from the book. Number 1, soft skills over math. 2, why no one is crazy. 3, luck, risk, and survival. 4, be reasonable, not rational. And finally, number 5, less ego, more wealth. All right, let's jump straight into our first foundational chapter, soft skills over math. This concept brilliantly illustrates a massive flaw in how we're taught about money. Think about it. Finance is almost always taught as this rigid, math-based field. We're taught to treat it exactly like physics, relying on strict rules, exact historical correlations, and cold, hard data. You get handed a formula like just save exactly 10% of your salary, and you're expected to flawlessly execute it. Basically, it assumes you don't have a fluctuating blood pressure, or terrible days at work, or perfectly targeted Instagram ads tempting you to spend. But Housel argues that money is actually way closer to psychology. It is entirely driven by emotions and nuance, because knowing the math of what you're supposed to do tells you absolutely nothing about what actually happens in your head when you try to do it. Moving right along to chapter 2, why no one is crazy. Now, if we accept that money is super emotional, we kind of have to ask ourselves, why do we do such crazy things with it? Think about the last time you saw a friend buy a fancy car they definitely couldn't afford, or maybe someone panicking and selling everything during a market dip. It is so incredibly easy to judge others and think they've completely lost their minds. But Housel makes this deeply validating point right here. Yes, people do crazy things with money, but no one is actually crazy. Seriously, every single financial decision someone makes actually makes perfect sense to them in that exact moment. Here is the really crucial part. Our worldviews are just radically different from one another. We're raised in different generations, by parents making vastly different incomes, we enter the job market in completely different economic climates, and frankly, we all experience wildly different degrees of luck. To put it into perspective, your personal experiences with money probably make up an infinitesimally small fraction of what's actually happened in the world, but they likely make up about 80% of how you personally think the world works. So what looks completely insane to you might actually be a perfectly logical reaction based on the unique life experiences of the person making that choice. At the end of the day, we are all just playing the game based on the specific lens we're looking through. That brings us to chapter 3, luck, risk, and survival. Housel points out something really interesting here. Luck and risk are basically siblings. They're this constant reminder that every outcome in life is guided by forces way bigger than just your own individual effort. And since we can't fully control either luck or risk, our absolute number one focus has to be on survival. Having a survival mentality means having the ability to stick around for a long, long time without wiping out. It's not about crushing it and getting the highest returns in a single year. It's about not being forced to give up entirely. This right here is the cornerstone of literally any winning financial strategy. Why? Because it's the only way you give the counterintuitive math of compounding the time it needs to actually work in your favor over decades. Oh, and here is a massive secret for you. The hardest financial skill is simply getting the goalpost to stop moving. You have to know when you have enough so you don't end up risking what you actually need for something you really don't need. But, why survive? What's the ultimate goal of all this? Housel actually draws on the research of a psychologist named Angus Campbell who studied what really makes humans happy. And guess what? The answer wasn't a sky-high income or living in a tropical paradise. The one common denominator for happiness was having a strong sense of control over one's own life. Therefore, the absolute highest dividend money pays isn't a shiny new Ferrari or a giant mansion. It is simply the ability to wake up on a random Tuesday morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That absolute control over your time and your options, that is literally priceless. Let's slide right into Chapter 4. Be reasonable, not rational. We all kind of fall into this trap of trying to be coldly rational, right? Acting as if we can function it perfectly like a spreadsheet, minimizing every single tax penalty and optimizing every last cent. But honestly, aiming to be mostly reasonable actually works so much better than trying to be coldly rational. A perfectly rational plan looks amazing on paper, but it completely ignores human nature. A reasonable plan, on the other hand, leaves room for you to actually sleep at night. It lets you feel secure, and most importantly, it helps you stick to your strategy when the real world inevitably gets chaotic. I absolutely love this quote from the source material. You're not a spreadsheet. You're a person, a screwed up, emotional person. And because we're all emotional beings, we have to recognize that we are playing totally different games here. A 22-year-old day trader who's out there chasing meme stocks is playing a fundamentally different game than a 60-year-old trying to save for a quiet, peaceful retirement. Once you realize this, it becomes so obvious why it's vital to never take your cues from or be persuaded by the financial behaviors of people who are just playing a totally different game than you are. And that brings us to our fifth and honestly, perhaps the most important chapter of all: less ego, more wealth. This might just be the most striking realization in the entire explainer. True wealth isn't the flashy sports car you see revving at the stoplight, and it's not the incredibly expensive watch on someone's wrist. Wealth is actually what you don't see. It is the unspent money. Because of that, saving money is entirely within your control. Why? Because saving money is simply the gap between your income and your ego. Think about it. To build real wealth, you have to suppress the urge to buy things today just to show other people that you have money. People who achieve enduring financial success generally don't give a damn about what others think of them. They shrink their ego, they increase their savings, and they buy themselves future freedom instead of current status. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a really critical question to chew on. What game are you playing with your money? Are you trying to prove your worth to everyone else today, or are you quietly building the ultimate freedom for your future self? Look, we might never know exactly what crazy stories are going on in someone else's head when they spend or save, but you have the complete power to understand your own. Figure out your own game, keep that ego in check, and let the incredible psychology of money start working for you.